Hello there, welcome into this latest edition of the SID Weekly Report. I'm Sports Information Director Daniel Gallegos, joined alongside Graduate Assistant Sports Information Director Jordan Bergeron. And Jordan, we're at kind of an interesting point in the school year, or the athletic year rather. Fall sports are starting to wind down, starting to kind of turn our attention a little bit more towards conference tournaments and championship meets for some of our teams. We'll go ahead and first we'll talk about volleyball. They've obviously participated in a few matches since the last time we talked, including their last two matches at home, senior day against Texas College, but before that, a very close match against Harding. So kind of get us up to speed a little bit with the volleyball team.
Yeah, they're on a quiet 3-game winning streak actually after losing at home against Harding in the 5-set match. They actually played Grambling and Texas College and another team, and they're on a 3-game, Monticello. So they're on, like I said, they're on a quiet 3-game winning streak, and I really want to touch on Monticello first. I mean, they won against Texas College and Grambling. Yeah, the stats were there. Texas College, Manji had the big night, 16 kills and 19 attempts, no errors. Still stands as the highest attacking percentage in a single match in the GAC. And Grambling, they also an impressive 3-set win against a Division I opponent. Always good to see. And then they go into Monticello, a team which they dominated earlier this season at home, but with playoffs coming up, you never know what's going to happen, especially at Monticello. They won in 4 sets there in dominant fashion. Again, they hit the highest in a conference match this season, 353. Manji again had a great night, but the story for me was Taylor Ayoum, the setter. She nearly had a triple-double, the first triple-double since 2011. She was 2 kills short. She did a great job distributing the ball from pin to pin and also to the middle. So, like I said, a quiet 3-game winning streak for the Lady Muleriders, and this week is big. They go to Henderson this week. If they beat Henderson, and if OBU loses to Harding, they will be the 5th seed in the GAC tournament. So a lot of playoff implications. It's that time of the season, Dan. We're winding down, and after this week, next week, it's to Hot Springs for the conference tournament.
Yeah, and you mentioned more or less a quiet 3-game winning streak, but when we looked at the schedule at the very beginning of the year, it was very top heavy. A lot of difficult teams at the beginning in non-conference play, and then of course during conference play, there's the expected, and then there's some things that pop up that you don't necessarily expect, and it's happened in the conference throughout the year, a couple of surprises here and there. But the back end of the schedule was really more or less light compared to what the beginning of the schedule was, and so we kind of figured that the team would be set up to navigate through that tough beginning of the schedule and the conference schedule, and towards the end of the year be able to build some momentum going into the conference tournament. And in a sport like volleyball, in a tournament setting, sometimes it only takes one team to get hot and make a run in the conference tournament, so it doesn't necessarily have to be one of the top seeded teams. And right now, Lady Muleriders are looking to be right there in the middle, which isn't a bad spot to be at, obviously, too, because if you're the 5 seed, you take on the 4 seed, so there's a chance to be able to get into the semifinals and then also into the finals. Then you never know once you get there, and so building momentum will be very important for the Lady Muleriders. And offensively, they're starting to click a lot, and we're starting to see a lot of pretty astronomical kill totals and everything else. So the stat sheet is definitely filling up for the Lady Muleriders. They seem to be peaking at the right time here towards the end of the season. We'll go ahead and we'll shift gears over to cross country. The men and women's cross country team were in action last weekend, I believe, for the GAC preview meet. This week they're basically preparing for the conference championship meet, which is this upcoming weekend. Talk a little bit about how the teams fared at the preview.
Well, they finished third. Both squads finished third at the preview, but again, the story all season has been Carly Langley, and she's just having one of the most historic seasons as a cross-country runner at SAU. She ran an 18:41, which garnered her 4th GAC Female Run of the Week honor this season. I think there's only been like 6 or 7 weeks, so she's pretty dominant in that fashion. But yeah, Virginia Nye also finished in the top 10. Virginia Nye, I'm sorry. She finished in the top 10 at 7th. And on the men's side, Chris Wallace finished 6th, and Mason Powers and Joel Pogue finished 10th and 12th. So we talked to Coach after. He said he had some minor injuries and illnesses, so I'm sure this bye week, so to say, I guess it's called a bye week in cross country, but the bye week certainly will get them healthy and ready to run again in NADA.
Yeah, and it was, it's really good for the teams to be able to go out there and participate in the championship preview meet, get a feel for the course, obviously being held at East Central, so a little bit of an advantage for the Tigers, both their men's and women's cross country teams, which are very good, but the Muleriders and Lady Muleriders appear to us, at least, and I think to everyone else in the conference, they're poised. they're poised to maybe make a few surprises. I mean, obviously throughout the year, the names that we've just said throughout the year week in and week out on both sides, those should figure to stay there too. But Coach Silver's talked about if he could get his top 4 runners all together, obviously, within the top 15, they'll have a pretty good shot at maybe, coming away with the conference championship. And he's very pleased with his team. And you look at it, they're also a very young team.
Yeah.
When you take aside Carly Langley, who's a senior, definitely be, tough to see her be gone next year. But most everyone else that is contributing significantly to the cross-country team for both men's and women's will be back next year. And so it's positive things moving forward for the cross-country team. And so they prepare, they spent this past week doing some various training and getting ready for the conference championships. And that's not the end all to their season too. They all, Service let us know that they will be going to the regional meet in, I believe, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I have to maybe double check that, but it's not anywhere near Magnolia. And so another travel heavy trip for them.
Right.
But they'll be able to go and, there's still a possibility for some individuals to advance even further than regionals and go to the Division II championships. So that's something that I think a few of the runners had their eyes on, and it'd be great to see them accomplish that. And obviously we'll be able to chronicle that as it continues. Men's and women's cross country last week as well were in action. They were in the Northwestern Oklahoma Panhandle State Invitational. Both the men's and women's come away with second place finishes. Very good to see out of them. Had some very good scores as well. George Adams, Kirk Peterson for the men, both finished tied for 4th, shooting 148 for both rounds. Very good scores for them. Adams was coming off of the previous event the week prior, where he had an outstanding event, finished 3rd. Second round, he helped lead the charge for the Mule Riders in that second round, to where they surged themselves into second place, and George Adams shot a 2 under 70, first under par for anybody in men's or women's golf this year. It was done by George Adams, so that was great to see, and him capitalizing in the Northwestern event as well. On the women's side, again, Gabrielle Clements and Hele Lead. Clements finished tied for 3rd with a 169 2-round total, and Lead 5th place, 179, so just one stroke off of each other. It's a women's team that continues to improve. They're also a team that's very young. Hele Lead is a freshman. Gabrielle Clements is a transfer sophomore, so they're very young. Even on the men's side, Peterson and Adams are both juniors, and they got some very young and talented golfers. And so Coach Robertson has that team going in the right direction. That was their last tournament during this fall slate, and so they're off for the rest of this semester, and then they'll get back into their championship season during the spring, get into a few more tournaments, and working on eyeing and improving their games, working towards the conference tournament, which will be later on in the spring, probably about the last week of April, I believe. So that's what they're preparing for. So the golf team done for the fall, and in football, we're down to the last few weeks of the season. The Mule Riders coming off of a bye week in football. They went to Arkadelphia to take on Ouachita Baptist. They're the last remaining unbeaten team in the Great American Conference. They were ranked 13th going in. It was a game that the Mule Riders were very fortunate to have the bye week beforehand, not just for getting healthy. You need that in any point of a football season, but also to prepare. I think anytime you get a team 2 weeks more or less to prepare for an opponent, they're going to come out and have some success, and that's what the Mule Riders did early on in that game. Had a lead, saw the lead go away, but then there was a very interesting set of plays that happened. The Mule Riders scored a touchdown and tied at 14 all. Go for an unconventional onside kick. It was really just a short kick that bounced in between some OBU returners, and they weren't expecting it. OBU wasn't able to recover it. The Mule Riders got the ball in OBU territory. Next play, touchdown pass to go ahead, and so that was a big momentum swing there for the Mule Riders. A couple missed field goals for OBU late in the first half helped SAU take a 21-17 lead into halftime. Neither of the teams scored in the third quarter, but OBU was driving towards the end of that third quarter, and on the first play they scored a touchdown to go ahead, and some things kind of spiraled a little bit out of control for the Mule Riders. OBU scored 14 more points after that, and so that was a big swing for them. But we're able to pull it within 10, had a chance. Just a couple of turnovers and some penalties late kind of cost and thwarted that momentum there. But overall, offensively, it was a great performance individually for a couple of players. Cy Blackshire, career high 415 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's second in the Great American Conference, only to Kevin Rogers in touchdown passes, and he's only 2 behind Rogers on the year. He's leading the conference in total yards per game, so total offense. He's leading the conference over 300 yards, and the other individual performance was Zacharias Ware. A handful of grabs over 100 yards, 2 touchdown catches. He's seemed to have become the go-to receiver for Blackshire here as of late, and 6 touchdown catches for Z Ware, and that's second in the Great American Conference, only behind Darius Davis at Henderson State. But he's well far away from everybody at 16 touchdowns, but still a great performance for those two. Unfortunately, Muleriders came up on the short end of it, but they still have an opportunity coming in this next week, taking on another nationally ranked team, not unbeaten, but nationally ranked Henderson State. And this is a game I think that the Muleriders have more or less had circled on their calendar since the schedule came out last year. Muleriders went to Henderson State and kind of took it on the chin a little bit up there, and it was just a very impressive Henderson State team last year. They did it to pretty much everybody, so nothing to really hang your head on too much. But looking for some revenge there and still have a chance to upset some playoff aspirations for some teams. Tried doing it with OBU, fell a little short there, but Henderson State next on tap, and it'll be a very exciting atmosphere because it's being held in El Dorado, Murphy USA Classic, neutral site, so don't know if that'll favor one team or the other, but it should be a great crowd. Every time SAU's been in this game, it was formerly known as Boomtown Classic. We brought a great crowd there to El Dorado, the short drive, and last year Henderson was in the game. They brought a great crowd, and so expect more of the same. Great tailgating that'll go on beforehand. Both bands will be there, cheerleaders. Should be a great festive atmosphere, and that's this upcoming Saturday, or November 8th, kickoff at 2 p.m., meal gating and stuff starting at noon. So we have a full slate ahead this week. Towards the end of the season for the fall sports, they're more or less eyeing their conference championships in the end of their season, and also too in the coming weeks, we'll get to start talking about some basketball and things like that as we start to transition into the winter sports, and know that our women's basketball team is going to start playing some exhibition. Men will have some exhibitions against some D1 teams, so that'll be a great opportunity for them to get some experience beforehand, and before we know it, it'll be basketball season here. And so appreciate all the hard work again, Jordan, and be sure to check MuleriderAthletics.com for all your live links, pregame stories, and anything you need in regards to Mulerider Athletics, not only for this week, but for the coming weeks as well. Jordan, once again, thank you.